let me
Yeah.
just say that, so I did not do a lot of that through medical school and training and all that. Um, and, Joel, I think you told me that this started when you were in histology, which is a first year medical school class. At least my thinking then was, and I think this is not uncommon for other people in our field, my thinking was I can't do anything. If I do anything else but study, then I'm not going to be able to pass the exam. And so I didn't have the message that you just shared, Des, which is I'm doing this for my own mental health. Nobody in my medical school said, you really ought to, really, you're going to be better off if you do take some time to go do something for yourself and recharge. So for me, and I think there's a lot of us like this, I can't do this because it'll take me away from studying to be able to pass. It'll take me away from availability to patients. I think that's what so I see some nodding heads. Deb, do you relate to that, or Rhonda, do you relate to that?
I think that it's something I hear a lot from the medical students. So, we have these conversations about the importance of taking care of themselves, but their response to me is, how am I going to do that? There's no time. And, our school will say to us, you need to do these things, but make sure you get all this other stuff done too. So I agree with you. I think that's really a big piece. I even hear it from established physicians. And I wonder, Joel, do you have any thoughts? I mean, have you talked with people over the years? Have they seen what you're doing? And what have you found has been helpful to try to encourage people or help them find the time or the perspective that allows them to engage in those activities?
Well, I've talked to, not that many people, but some. Like I said, there was the doctor's band, so a bunch of the guys had the same thought I did, is we need to do this. And of course, it was kind of a fluid thing, because if someone was on call, the doctor wasn't going to show up to practice Monday nights, but we knew that, so it didn't really matter. But I've talked to other students, one was, even my niece, who was studying to be a rabbi, again, study. She was, way up there. And I said, you need to start doing something, whether it's an hour a week or something, just go out and do something. And then what you find, what I found, is you actually start looking forward to that hour. And she did. She started playing tennis or doing something. No one has to go out and, jog or do, but just something. And then during your busy time, you go like, oh, Thursday at 2 o'clock, I have this. And I tried to tell them to set that time. That is your time. And people have asked me, says, well, do you have your own wheel and kiln at home? I said, no. I have a treadmill down in my basement, and I bet everybody else does have stuff like that, and it sits there and doesn't get used. But if you set your time to go to the gym, you're going to go to the gym. If you have a class of something, that's your time. And that's what I tried to tell people, is schedule something. A softball practice. I have a game at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Boom, boom, boom. I got to be there. And rather than just do it random, no, you have to set your schedule. And
one of the things that happens, oh, sorry, Joel. Well, but one of the things that happens, in Dale, when you were, kind of teeing this up, you almost become guilted into not spending all your time on study because that's important, or your career because that is the most important thing. And the reality is that I've found, when you get into this rut where that's all you're doing is working and studying or whatever it is, and there's no fun time or no time to take a break, I find it seems like it takes 3 times as long to get even the most basic things done, versus when you feel rejuvenated, it's like that was easy. You come back to it and you knock off these tasks that would otherwise, now when you're in that rut, seem to take forever, and you dread sitting down to have to go through it again. You start to get into this negative cycle. And I think if we don't set that time, like Joel was saying, make that time to go to the gym, or make that time to go, whatever your activity is, play your music, go paint, whatever it is, then you're setting yourself up for nothing but misery. And it's a very, very bad cycle to be in. And if you don't recognize it, that's okay. That's one problem. But when you do recognize it and then you just don't do anything about it too, or do anything to break yourself from the cycle, it feeds into more anxiety too.
Yeah.
Well, I think it can become a cycle that's hard to break. I want to take us back to the medical students who are already expressing a concern. The guilt is laid very early on, and I think that's where I see a lot of physicians that their whole identity is, I am the doctor. That's who I am, versus it's part of my life, which is why I find your perspective, Joel, very refreshing. Is that, yes, I'm a doctor, but I also have these other interests, and I'm going to give them time too, because it rejuvenates me. It allows me to express myself. But I think it starts early, and it's part of the construct. So by the time they make their way through their medical training, that identity piece is already ingrained.
Thank you so much for joining our discussion today. If you'd like to learn more about our guest, head on over to our Patreon page, where you can access exclusive content, including the full segment of our show. Never want to miss an Inside the Doctor's Lounge clip? Be sure to click the subscribe button to our MD Coaches YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate suggestions for future show topics, so let us know what you're thinking in the comments below. And finally, special thanks to Ryan Jones, who created and performs our theme music for the show.